So in 1854, things get a lot worse with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which leads to Bleeding Kansas when violence erupts for the first time over the situation. So the Kansas-Nebraska Act is over the Kansas Territory. You can see it says Kansas Territory in the middle with 1854, right? The act is a great idea that turns out relatively horribly, right? What happens is that Kansas decides to leave the issue of slavery up to popular sovereignty. So popular sovereignty in this case is let the people decide, right? Instead of adhering to the 3630 parent line of the Missouri Compromise, which would say that Kansas would be a free state, they hope to instead say, okay, let's let it up to the people who live here. It's presented at first by Stephen Douglas from Illinois. Right? Douglas is a Democrat, and he definitely needs the South, right? So he's from Illinois, he's from the North, but he wants to become president, and he needs the sort of Southern support for that. So he's sort of tilted towards slavery, right? And he hopes that this will keep the status quo, right? Let the people decide what they want. And the people who are there, they get to vote, right? The problem with that is that the future of the nation is reliant on this election, right? It determines how many Senate seats there are. So the future, both political parties, both Democrats and Republicans, try to get their constituents to move to that area. So radical Democrats, radical Republicans need to move to Kansas to help Kansas become either free or slave, right? So the Kansas-Nebraska Act, right, could also appeal to Nebraska. You see, it's 1854. But the first group that happens to, it's Kansas, right? They're the first state that could be ready to be admitted as a state, and states are ready to be admitted once their population is high enough. And this really becomes the first step of the Civil War, where it's sort of almost inevitable at this point. So people move there, both free and slave, and they start fighting each other over this issue on free or slave status. The most famous person who does this is John Brown. He's an abolitionist from Connecticut, and we've seen him before. He and his sons go out there, and they're sort of known for killing people with machetes. So in 1854 and 1855, there are several votes in the territory for an assembly, right? And there's rumors that Northerners are sending a lot of abolitionists to Kansas, which is partly true, which inspires Southerners, especially those from Missouri, close by, to cross the border to try to steal the election. So, for instance, in one town, there are only about 60 residents, but 200 votes are cast. So this results in a lot of the early government in Kansas being pro-slavery. Now, in 1857, the people have to vote on a constitution for the state, and they have to choose between a constitution that has unlimited slavery or one that has limited slavery. The free soilers end up boycotting the election, saying this is not fair, right? There's no choice for no slavery. So despite the fact that it looks like the population of Kansas is mostly anti-slavery, the election shows that it's a pro-slavery win, right, which makes the North very unhappy. So Congress refuses to accept the pro-slavery constitution, and it doesn't actually pass. And this results in fighting in Congress between Preston Brooke and Charles Sumner. So Charles Sumner of Massachusetts makes a speech against the Kansas slavery constitution. In it, he accuses a senator, that is Preston Brooke, of taking the heart slavery as his mistress. So Preston Brooks then takes a cane to Charles Sumner. The Southerners applaud Brooks, and they send him many canes emblazoned with the words, "Hit him again."